Hey writers, welcome to your first, maybe your first, the first one I'm making, revising lesson. Yay! So today we're going to talk about how to directly address your audience. That means how to talk directly to the people who's either reading your piece or listening to your piece. This is really important because you want the reader not to think they're just reading something that doesn't impact them. You want to tell them. You need to think about your audience and figure out, like, who are you speaking to, so you can say, like, this is impacts your life, which will get them more interested in what you're writing. So there are a few ways that we can directly address the audience, and I'm going to put them here. Okay, so the first thing you could do is name and talk back to worries or concerns. So that might sound like, I know you might be thinking, ... It might sound like, if you were wondering, if you were worrying, or if you were asking, you might say, let me explain. You might wonder or ask or argue, and you might say, what you might be thinking is, okay? So that's like naming things that your reader might be worried about or concerned about, and then explaining them. Now, the other thing is you might just ask a question directly to your audience, okay? And that might sound like, have you ever, ... or do you wonder, ... You might say, why, or what about, okay? So you pretend as you're writing that you're writing directly to someone. Something that might help that is to have someone in mind who you think is going to listen to this. For me, I know that all of my students are going to listen to my speech. So when I'm writing it, I'm going to think about, what can I say directly to my students? And I'm going to try out some of these moves. Let me show you how I do it. Okay, so I found just a few places. I added a question here. Let me zoom this in. On my first reason, or that is why she uses her voice to fight actions to fight against climate change. Then I added, how much do you actually know about climate change? Greta is very knowledgeable about the topic. So it kind of like leads me in to this next little part, kind of asking, like, asking my audience, do you actually know anything about climate change? Well, Greta does. She's very knowledgeable about the topic, right? So that's talking directly to my audience. Then I noticed on my second paragraph, which was reason 2, I started that with the question. So I was already doing that in my drafting. I said, who do you look up to? For me, I feel inspired by people who are doing brave things. Then down here, there was a bit about how she started the school strike for climate. She proved that kids can make a difference. Then I decided to add this. I know you might be thinking, how can skipping school fight climate change? Well, it got the attention of the local news, the government, and eventually everyone was talking about Greta and the need to fight climate change. So I've added that revision into here, and it's talking directly to my audience, like, I know you're thinking this, but let me tell you why that's wrong, or let me explain it. So there you have it. Now you've seen a few places where I talk directly to the audience. It helps to get the reader's attention, and it helps them to think more deeply about the things you're saying, right? If you're just talking like about this thing, they might not be so interested. But when you talk directly to them by asking them questions or saying things like, I know you might be thinking this, then it kind of like re-hooks their engagement, gets them back into what you're saying. So why don't you give this a try? Find a place in your own writing where you might add a part, a sentence or two, or maybe like a little extra bit, talking directly to the audience. Let me know if you have any questions. Have fun, and I will talk to you soon.